This time we're going to look at dance and music. I have lots of web links up on the forum, so make sure you click through them and look at the different kinds of both dance and music so you can have kind of a well-rounded idea of what I'm getting ready to talk about. Let's start by looking at how dance has changed over the years. It used to be that a dance partner would never touch the other partner. The most they would ever do is the hand and the waist, but there were even dances in the very beginning where they would actually dance and their hands would be side by side and would not touch at all. This of course has changed over the centuries. Dance was originally done for like rituals and ceremonies and celebrations and that sort of thing. In ancient civilizations, it was actually considered a pagan ritual and done to God and royalty and that sort of thing. And so you can imagine the church took a long time to get on board with the idea of dancing. According to the Bible, the art form of dancing has been around for a very long time, and we see in Scripture that even David danced before the Lord. So we know dancing's been around a long time. Culture, religion, tradition, and history are all wrapped up in dance. Many societies have included it into their various forms of life. As early as the 16th century, court dancing and ballet were popular forms of dancing, and they're very beautiful in their execution. A lot of times they go with high society. In early American, dancing was saved for like balls and theater, private parties, that sort of thing. Often, a lot of times, so that the gentleman could find himself a wife, and so they would bring these together so they could have a chance to dance with the women in the community. And as you know, in stories like Cinderella, you see they have a ball, and that's where the prince is looking for a wife, and that's kind of the idea of what dance was used for a long time. The other thing about dancing is it was to show off somebody's wealth or political standing, and so that was a big part of the culture during that time. However, since America is such a melting pot, we have lots of different cultures here. Dancing has changed. A lot of different cultures have brought their dance over, and so it's kind of weaved its way into our culture. Even from Scotland, Ireland, England, France, Africa, a lot of different countries have brought their dance into what we see today. Even something like river dancing, if you don't know what that is, look at the link online and you'll see how there's kind of an Irish jig there that has made it really big here in the United States in actually the last decade. In the 20th century, dancing took a whole different turn than the rest of the time. Conservative and religious groups haven't always accepted it, especially because of some of the dancing that has happened in the 20th century. It made the division definitely bigger and greater. In the 1950s, dance was really springing up, and a lot of it had to do with the songs. So you would have like the mashed potato or the stroll, and they were songs that went with that, and that was the kind of dance that developed through those. Ballet, jazz, tap, ballroom, and line dancing were just a few that were all through that time. Swing, of course, came out of like the 1920s and 30s. There's all these different kinds of dancing that happened back then. And then urban dance started to happen more in the 70s and moving into the 80s with hip hop and break dancing. 80s, really big in the 80s, and that was kind of where dancers would spin on their head and freeze in place. And then pop locking came into the scene in the 1970s. It's based on a technique of kind of jerking the body and taking off the different muscles and that sort of thing. Robotics, not to be confused with the robot of the 1980s. It's actually really big now. And then another one called Crump, which stands for Kingdom Radically Uplifted Mighty Praise, was actually a tribal dance that was supposed to glorify God. So these are some new dances that have just kind of come and gotten really big in the last few years. But there is an art form that has gone on for generations. Every generation has their kind of dance. If you think of the 1960s, you think of disco, and of course there's country line dancing and hip hop and all sorts of dancing that goes over the different decades. And there are studies that will show. Actually, I'm going to change gears for a second. We're going to talk about music now and how the power of dance comes from the power of the music. And so I want to switch gears over to music and talk about how there are studies that show music can actually heal certain diseases such as Parkinson's. NPR reports that science has confirmed that humans are hardwired to respond to music. And could that have something to do with the fact that even the angels in heaven sing? Or that we were created to make a joyful noise before the Lord? Like dancing, the art of music has been around since the beginning. Singing and musical instruments were mentioned as early as Genesis 31. And even, like I said, at the first week, Jesus' birth even had singing, angels right there at the beginning announcing his birth. If music is integrated into our DNA, then that might explain a lot about the culture often adapts different kinds of music. Fashion, dance, and attitude are all usually built into a kind of music. I mean, think about it. If you see people, with a cowboy hat and boots, a lot of times we automatically assume they listen to country music. You see somebody with a baseball hat, turned back and sneakers and baggy pants, you might think they listen to hip hop. A lot of times, style and music, they go hand in hand. A lot of times, culture and music go hand in hand. There's no way we could possibly cover the history of music in this small amount of time because it has changed so much. And it used to be that when I said I like rock, that was one kind of music. And now it's just so great and morphed so much. We have heavy metal, death metal, screamo, soft rock, classic rock, alternative rock, punk rock, emo rock, and the list goes on. I have a bunch of samples for you on the links this week. I hope you will check them out so you can get kind of a more idea of the different kinds of genre. But even from that, there's hip hop, rap, country, disco, pop, jazz, blues, folk, techno, opera, classical, reggae, pop, and the list goes on. And that's not even including the Christian music such as praise and worship and gospel and all of the above. So music is very powerful. There's many different kinds, and I hope that this week you'll spend some time, looking through the different kinds. And just remember, the music that you put into your heart, the music you put into your mind, it really does stay with us. That's why there's jingles. People use jingles for commercials because they know they'll stay with you. And I knew a man one time who fell and he hit his head on the ice, and he was brain dead, but he still was singing worship songs in the hospital, and they were like, he shouldn't be doing anything. He's brain dead, but he still had the Spirit of God's music in him. So just remember that next time when you plug in a CD or turn on your iPod, that you let music be something that speaks to your soul. God bless and have a great week.